Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our podcast. Happy New Year!
Yay! Today we're discussing one of the most popular and timeless animated movies ever made, Shrek.
Now this is Shrek, an ogre who wants nothing more than peace and quiet in his swamp.
Sound like that anime character, doesn't it?
Yes. But when all the fairy tale creatures are evicted from their homes and moved to his swamp, Shrek goes on a quest for Lord Farquaad to regain his home.
Yes. And before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, and notification with updates on future podcasts and multi-post videos.
Yes.
Now, this is one of the movies, is like, who hasn't heard of Shrek or who hasn't watched Shrek?
Exactly.
It's almost like Avatar: The Last Airbender. There are very few people who haven't seen this movie or know about this movie or heard about the franchise in general.
Which is kind of why we couldn't believe we had never done a podcast on the Shrek movie.
Yes. And originally we were going to cover like maybe the franchise as a whole because last year was the anniversary of Shrek, and it was also inducted into Treasury. The film was inducted to the Treasury for the country as being one of the most timeless movies ever made. But we figure, let's do each movie individually.
Since each has its fans and its discreditors, we figure this will give you an opportunity to watch the podcast you like for the ones you like.
Right.
So, this is numero uno.
Yes, the one that started all.
And it was so unique when it came out. So different, so unique, so fantastic. And what was really exciting is that they took a public domain story, a bunch of public domain stories, I should say, and made them into a movie that was new and exciting.
Right.
And it felt like stories you've never heard before, just like MHA.
Right. And what was crazy that we actually had heard at one point that this movie was going to have Chris Farley in it, and it was adapting a book that we didn't even know was a book at first, and it was going to closely follow that. And then when Farley passed, they reinvented the movie into something else.
A recast.
Right, with Mike Myers. And it looks like, no disrespect to him whatsoever, but it looks like, I don't think the movie would have been as big as it is now if this version hadn't come out.
Well, his take on the portrayal was really different.
Right.
And it would have been a totally different movie.
Right.
And I'm sure it would have had its merits.
Right.
But it would have been really different from the way that Mike Myers interpreted the character.
Right. And here you can quote just about anything from this movie. It's very enjoyable.
And in the morning, I'm making
waffles. There's always so many quotes you can quote from here. It's enjoyable, it's memorable, it's timeless. No matter how many times you see it, you never get tired of it. And even if it didn't have sequels, you could even enjoy it just on its own, just for how fantastic it is. I mean, we're glad it has some sequels because we enjoy a majority of the sequels.
I enjoyed all of them personally.
But with this, it works whether it's standalone or part of a set. And it just shows the testament of how well the writing is and how clever it was, and putting in all the, at the time, modern music, and it all fit in.
And besides Mike Myers, they had a stellar cast that included Eddie Murphy as Donkey.
Yes.
And they had Cameron Diaz, sorry, as the princess, who he didn't know was a princess.
Right.
Well, he knew she was a princess, but he didn't know she turned to an ogre.
Right. And
Princess Fiona, sorry.
Yes. And John Lithgow as
Lord Farquaad. And they did a fantastic job of making these characters unique and enjoyable and fun. And again, when you saw the rest of the cast of the characters who were in it, they're all public domain characters. And you were like, what is this?
Right.
How is this so different and so fun? And you've heard all the stories, you know all the stories, Three Blind Mice and Little Bo Peep
and Pinocchio, the bears, the
gingerbread
pigs,
man,
the pigs, and somehow this.
It was like you've never seen
right.
before.
It was almost like you were watching a reality show of the fairy tale characters, only way better than you expect. Instead of being something like you would see that you don't want to watch, it's something just really entertaining. And instead of being all cutesy and fantastical and stuff, they're just these little slackers that just we'll just move here and kick us all out. We'll just move to this one place.
Because ogres have layers. This was just a joy. I can't even tell you how many times I've watched it. I have no idea because I've watched it alone. I've watched it with other family and friends before you. I've watched it with you. We've watched it with other people. I have no idea how many times I've watched this movie.
Right.
But every time I watch it, it's like I've never seen it before, but I know everything is going to happen, and it's still just as fun as the first time that I saw it. What about you?
I think you're right. It's no matter how many times you see it, no matter when you see it, it's fun. No, it doesn't lose its magic. It doesn't feel dated. It doesn't feel like things run to the ground. It doesn't feel like something doesn't work anymore. You watch it from 2001 or 2021 or 2022 at this point, the movie still holds up. Nothing about it seems like it's out of place watching it all these years later. It's just that much of a timeless. It's now, I think, officially a timeless classic.
And it's set off in just a huge number of copycat movies.
Yeah.
Definitely not done as well as this.
Right.
And they also started the trend of having the musical number at the end of the movie with a cavalcade of songs.
Right.
Songs that were popular.
Right.
And for this one, the biggest one that we love and remember I did was All Star.
Right.
And it was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're using this. But every movie ended with the montage, like I said,
A song.
Yeah, the song.
Yeah.
And other movies began to copy the same formula.
Right. And for the movie itself, the adventure sounds it's in itself a spoof of fairy tales. You know they're using all the public domain characters with a character based on a book, but the adventure sounds like a spoof of something you see. Like you're supposed to have, the prince goes rescues the princess from the tower, but instead of a prince, except for a prince, you got an ogre.
Except for a noble steed,
you got a little donkey, and you got to fight a dragon, which the donkey falls in love with, and the castle's like fire and brimstone.
And the beautiful princess turns into an ogre.
Right, and she can kick ass. This is like, everything is like the opposite of what you expect.
And Lord Farquaad is supposed to be this huge, handsome, intelligent, wonderful person of royalty.
And then
he's this little
man.
person that wears extended legs.
Yeah,
so
and they see his castle say, I think he's compensating for something.
This movie is absolutely brilliant. The writing, everything about it was just pure brilliance. And nothing comes close to even being like this movie now. Decades later, there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
I don't think there will ever be anything like Shrek.
Right.
The first, I'm going to say.
And people are still trying all these years later. Everyone tries to have their own take on fairy tales or magic or just fairies in general. And while some do have interesting takes on it, some are very well done. Some are just, you can tell, are very lazy, just trying to be Shrek. But for the most part, Shrek is so far the best version of taking Grimm's fairy tales, putting them in one universe, and just doing a fun, spoof, almost modern take on them.
And I think it's wonderful how they've inspired others.
Yes.
Because the mark of a great movie is when it inspires others to make things that may seem similar but are different, or to do a different take. And it's done then, as you said, there have been some that are good.
Right.
And there have been knockoffs that are like, just stop.
Right. Hey, they've done it with Kung Fu Panda 1 billion times. So, of course, Shrek had the same treatment.
Absolutely.
And with this movie, it launched 3 sequels. 2 holiday specials, one for Christmas, one for Halloween, and then a spin-off movie with Puss in Boots, who appears in the sequel, and then a spin-off for that spin-off, and the TV show for the Adventures of Puss in Boots. So this franchise has just longevity, and majority of the stuff they do works. You got a few misses every now and then. They even have a musical based off of Shrek, where they adapt more of the book to bring more backstory to Shrek and how he got to the swamp and everything.
So we will eventually get to all of these movies. So we know you've seen Shrek.
Yes.
We know you've seen the first one. There's no way you haven't. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Do you love it? Is it your favorite out of the entire franchise? And if you haven't seen it, oh, woe is us.
Yeah,
you gotta see it. But you're gonna have to buy it because, to our knowledge, it isn't available on any streaming service.
I
it's
think
definitely
maybe
not on Netflix.
right. I think it's maybe on Hulu. You can probably see it on there, and that's about it.
Give it a try, and then let us know what you think in the comments below.
And be sure to like, subscribe, and notification for the updates on future podcasts and World of Pause videos.
And the remaining Shrek movies.
Yes.
And the Puss in Boots.
Yes. So thank you so much for watching. I'm Roscoe Entertainment.
And I'm Mom Entertainment.
Have a fantastic day.
Peace and have a fantastic New Year.
Yes. Happy New Year.
And reporters sitting, flashing lights, trying to walk around, man. Who the hell are you? What you wanna do? My man, it's on.